In the dawn of civilization, around 3200 BC, the Levant was a cradle of human ingenuity and social complexity. Here, the Canaanites, ancestors of the Phoenicians, laid down the roots of what would become a legendary seafaring empire. These early societies were survivors, innovators, builders of cities, creators of alphabets, and pioneers of international trade. The Canaanites emerged from a blend of ancient cultures, including the Gasulian Chalcolithic culture, itself a product of the Neolithic Revolution. This was a time when humans transitioned from nomadic lifestyles to settled agricultural communities, a change sparked by the domestication of animals and the innovation of farming around 6200 BC. Byblos, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, serves as a clear sign of these early advancements, with archaeological evidence dating back to the early Bronze Age. The relationship between the Canaanites and their powerful neighbors, Egypt and Mesopotamia, was complex and multifaceted. Trade routes crisscrossed the region, bringing not just goods but ideas and cultural influences. From Egypt, the Canaanites adopted aspects of religion and governance, while from Mesopotamia, they borrowed elements of writing and mathematics. This exchange was not one-sided. The Canaanites' mastery of the seas allowed them to spread their own influence far beyond the Levant, laying the groundwork for the maritime prowess of their Phoenician descendants. During the period between 1500 and 1200 BC, the Levant, a geographical region at the crossroads of the Eastern Mediterranean, encompassing modern-day countries such as Lebanon, Syria, and parts of Israel and Jordan, witnessed the rise of a civilization destined to become the masters of Mediterranean trade and navigation, the Phoenicians. Inheriting the rich cultural and technological legacy of the Canaanites, the Phoenicians began to carve out their identity as unparalleled seafarers and traders, connecting the ancient world like never before. The city-states of Byblos, Sidon, and Tyre emerged as major centers of economic and political power. Each city, with its unique strengths, contributed to the burgeoning dominance of the Phoenicians in trade networks that spanned from the shores of the Mediterranean to the distant lands of the British Isles and the coastlines of West Africa. Moving on to the period of 1200 to 800 BC, the Phoenician civilization reached its zenith, marking the golden age of their remarkable culture. During these centuries, the Phoenicians dominated maritime trade and embarked on ambitious voyages of exploration, establishing colonies that would spread their influence and culture across the Mediterranean and beyond. This era was characterized by unprecedented economic prosperity, driven by the Phoenicians' advanced shipbuilding techniques and their knack for navigation. Their fleets ventured beyond the familiar waters of the Levant, reaching as far as the British Isles in search of tin and the coasts of West Africa for gold and ivory. In the 9th century BC, the Phoenicians embark on their most ambitious project, establishing Carthage. Near the shores of modern-day Tunis, they lay the foundations of a city destined to become a beacon of power, culture, and innovation. Carthage rises, showcasing the Phoenicians' vision of creating a new epicenter of trade and cultural exchange. From this strategic location, Carthage will command the Western Mediterranean trade routes, a jewel in the crown of Phoenician civilization. Cultural achievements flourished alongside trade and exploration. The Phoenicians refined the alphabet, making it a vital tool for administration and communication across their widespread colonies. Their religious and social practices, too, spread with their expansion, intertwining with the local customs of the regions they touched, creating a mosaic of cultural exchange. The production of Tyrian purple, a dye extracted from the murex snail, symbolized the wealth and power of the Phoenician elite. This luxury item, reserved for royalty and the upper echelons of society, was sought after throughout the ancient world, enhancing the prestige of Phoenician textiles and solidifying their economic dominance. However, the Phoenician Golden Age was not without its challenges. The rise of powerful neighbors, such as the Assyrians and later the Babylonians, posed significant threats to their autonomy. Through strategic diplomacy and, at times, tribute, the Phoenician city-states managed to maintain a delicate balance of power, ensuring their survival in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. The legacy of the Phoenician Golden Age is profound, leaving indelible marks on the cultures and economies of the ancient Mediterranean. Their contributions to navigation, trade, and the spread of the alphabet have echoed through history, shaping the development of subsequent civilizations. Around 1650 BC, the winds of change sweep through the heart of ancient Egypt with the arrival of the Hyksos. These newcomers, hailing from the regions of Asia, find a new home in the fertile lands of the Nile Delta. Unlike any before, their presence marks a time of significant transformation, introducing a host of advancements that would redefine the technological landscape of Egypt. The Hyksos, wielding superior military technologies such as horse-drawn chariots and advanced weaponry, established themselves as a formidable power, eventually coming to rule over parts of Egypt during the Second Intermediate Period. Their reign, often described as a conquest, is also a period of cultural synthesis and technological exchange that significantly impacts Egyptian society and its neighbors. Under the Hyksos' rule, Egypt becomes a melting pot of ideas and innovations. The Hyksos introduced the horse and chariot, revolutionizing warfare and transportation in the ancient world. Their metalworking skills, particularly in bronze, lead to improved tools and weapons. This era of exchange and adaptation lays the groundwork for a new chapter in Egyptian history, one where the integration of foreign technologies and ideas propels the civilization into a new age of prosperity and power. Yet the relationship between the Egyptians and the Hyksos is complex, marked by both collaboration and conflict. The cultural and technological exchanges that flourished under Hyksos rule also sowed the seeds of resentment among some segments of the Egyptian population, setting the stage for the eventual expulsion of the Hyksos and the rise of the New Kingdom, a period that would see Egypt reach the zenith of its power and influence in the ancient world. The sands of time shift, and with the rise of the New Kingdom around 1550 BC, Egypt begins to assert its might. The expulsion of the Hyksos by Pharaoh Ahmose I marks the beginning of a new chapter. As Egypt extends its influence over the Levant, the political landscape transforms. For the emerging Phoenician city-states, this change presents both opportunities for growth and challenges to their burgeoning autonomy. As Egyptian hegemony blankets the Levant, the Phoenician city-states tread a path of cautious diplomacy. Embracing the opportunities that Egyptian protection offers, they flourish as centers of trade and culture. Yet the desire for autonomy simmers beneath the surface. This period is a delicate dance of power, where the Phoenicians must navigate the complexities of growth under the watchful eye of a powerful empire. The Phoenicians capitalized on their strategic position along the eastern Mediterranean coast, expanding their trade networks beyond the Levant to include Cyprus, the Aegean, and beyond. They traded cedar timber, highly prized by ancient Egyptians and others for its durability and scent, as well as luxurious purple dye, extracted from the murex shellfish, which became a symbol of royalty and wealth. The Phoenicians were also pioneers in the production of glass, further enhancing their economic influence. One of the most significant contributions of the Phoenicians to world culture was the development of the Phoenician alphabet. This script, emerging around 1050 BC, simplified the complex cuneiform and hieroglyphic writing systems of their neighbors, consisting of 22 characters that represented consonant sounds. This innovation drastically increased literacy and record-keeping efficiency, facilitating trade and administration. The Phoenician alphabet is the ancestor of most modern alphabets, including Greek and Latin, demonstrating the lasting impact of Phoenician culture on subsequent civilizations. During this time, the Phoenicians not only expanded their commercial reach, but also established themselves as cultural innovators and facilitators of international communication. Their advancements in maritime technology, coupled with their strategic use of trade networks, laid the groundwork for what would become a vast thalassocracy, a dominion over the seas. The period between 1500 and 1200 BC saw the Phoenicians, emerging from the Canaanite civilization, begin to forge a new identity marked by unprecedented maritime and commercial prowess. This era was catalyzed by significant influences and interactions with neighboring superpowers, notably Egypt, during and after the Hyksos period. The Phoenicians adeptly navigated the complexities of foreign domination and influence, using it as a springboard to expand their trade networks across the Mediterranean and beyond. In this transformative age, the Phoenicians innovated and excelled in several domains. They became renowned for their timber from the legendary cedar trees of Lebanon, indispensable for building ships and monumental architecture across the ancient world. Additionally, their mastery in producing purple dye from the murex shellfish set a standard for luxury, reserved for the garments of royalty and nobility. The art of glassmaking, too, saw new heights in Phoenician hands, further solidifying their reputation as unparalleled artisans and traders. As the Bronze Age gave way to the Iron Age, the civilizations around the Mediterranean were undergoing significant transformations. The Phoenicians, living in city-states along the Levantine coast, found themselves at a crossroads of civilizations, perfectly positioned to capitalize on the emerging opportunities for trade and cultural exchange. Their cities, including Byblos, Sidon, Tyre, and later Beirut, became bustling centers of commerce, known for their skilled artisans, merchants, and navigators. The strategic locations of Phoenician cities along important trade routes allowed them to become major hubs of commerce. Phoenicia's economy thrived on a diverse range of goods, including the famous Tyrian purple dye, extracted from murex snails, fine textiles, and exquisite craftsmanship in metal and glass. The wealth generated from trade-fueled advancements in art, culture, and society, laying the foundations for a rich cultural heritage that would influence the Mediterranean for centuries. The Phoenicians were skilled diplomats, navigating the complex political landscapes of the ancient Near East. Their city-states often formed alliances with powerful neighbors, including Egypt and the emerging Assyrian Empire, to secure their trade interests and maintain a degree of autonomy. These relationships, though sometimes fraught, facilitated cultural exchanges that enriched Phoenician society with influences from across the Mediterranean and the Near East. Trade dominance was not merely about wealth, it was a conduit for cultural interaction and the dissemination of ideas. Phoenician merchants and sailors ventured beyond familiar waters, establishing trade networks that spanned the Mediterranean and reached the distant shores of North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, and beyond. Their ships, laden with cedar wood, purple dye, fine textiles, and glassware, showcased their unrivaled skill in navigation and commerce. Colonization marked a new frontier for Phoenician expansion. Seeking new markets and resources, they founded colonies throughout the Mediterranean, including in Cyprus, Sardinia, Sicily, and most notably Carthage. These settlements served as vital trade outposts and cultural hubs, extending Phoenician influence and facilitating the spread of their technological advancements, such as the renowned Phoenician alphabet and their religious practices. The foundation of Carthage in particular symbolized the zenith of Phoenician ambition. Established in the 9th century BC, Carthage would grow to become a powerful city-state, embodying the spirit of Phoenician resilience and ingenuity. The establishment of such colonies underscored the Phoenicians' role as pioneers of the ancient world, bridging continents and cultures long before the rise of Rome. The Phoenician Golden Age was a time of unparalleled achievement, showcasing the enduring legacy of a civilization that, though it would face decline, left an indelible mark on history. As we journey through the period of 800 to 539 BC, the Phoenician city-states found themselves entwined with the fates of emerging superpowers, the Assyrian and Babylonian empires. This era was marked by the Phoenicians' adept navigation of the geopolitical landscapes, shaped by these dominant forces. The Assyrian Empire, with its militaristic prowess and expansive ambitions, began to exert its influence over the Levant, including the Phoenician city-states. The Phoenicians, known for their diplomatic agility, often found themselves paying tribute to Assyria to maintain a semblance of autonomy and ensure the safety of their trade routes. This relationship, while fraught with challenges, also provided a measure of stability that allowed Phoenician trade to flourish under Assyrian hegemony. The fall of Assyria and the rise of the Babylonian Empire brought new challenges and dynamics to Phoenician politics. The city-states, particularly Tyre, faced sieges and demands for tribute from Babylon, yet the Phoenicians' maritime capabilities allowed them some degree of maneuverability in these turbulent times. Amidst these external pressures, the Phoenicians also engaged in significant alliances with neighboring states, most notably the Kingdom of Israel. This alliance was epitomized by the close relationship between King Hiram of Tyre and Kings David and Solomon of Israel. The Phoenicians supplied materials and expertise for the construction of Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, cementing a bond that was as much commercial as it was political. Despite the political upheavals, this period witnessed remarkable Phoenician advancements in maritime technology. Innovations in shipbuilding included the development of the bireme, an ancient oared warship with two superimposed rows of oars on each side. These long vessels were built for military purposes and could achieve relatively high speed. Later came the trireme, a type of ancient ship that had 3 rows of oars on each side, known for their extraordinary speed and lighter weight compared to biremes. These vessels revolutionized naval architecture, being faster, more maneuverable, and capable of longer voyages, thereby reinforcing Phoenician dominance in Mediterranean seafaring. Phoenician navigators also pushed the boundaries of the known world, venturing into the Atlantic and possibly circumnavigating Africa, as recorded by Herodotus. Their mastery of celestial navigation using the stars to guide their journeys emphasized a profound understanding of the sea that few civilizations could match. The Phoenicians' interactions with emerging powers during this epoch highlight their resilience and adaptability in the face of empire-building ambitions. Their contributions to shipbuilding and navigation sustained their economic vitality and laid the groundwork for future explorations and encounters across the ancient Mediterranean and beyond. As the year 539 BC dawns, a seismic shift occurs in the ancient Near East. The Phoenician city-states, renowned for their maritime prowess, find themselves under the dominion of a new colossal power, the Achaemenid Persian Empire. This change ushers in an era of relative stability and prosperity, contrasting sharply with the tumultuous periods that preceded it. The Phoenicians, pragmatic and resilient, prepare to navigate the waters of this new political landscape. Under Persian rule, the Phoenicians retain their vital role as masters of the sea. Their fleets, unmatched in speed and navigation, facilitate trade across the empire's expansive realm, from the bustling markets of the Indus Valley to the ancient cities along the Nile. This integration into the Persian Empire marks a significant moment for the Phoenicians, allowing them to wield considerable influence and ensure the prosperity of their cities through continued maritime and commercial activities. In a display of political acumen, the Phoenicians secure a degree of autonomy from their Persian overlords. This autonomy, a reflection of their diplomatic agility and the value of their naval expertise, allows them to maintain their identity and governance. The Persian kings, recognizing the strategic importance of the Phoenician fleet, grant these concessions in exchange for loyalty and military support, particularly in naval conflicts against burgeoning Greek powers. As tensions escalate between the Persian Empire and the Greek city-states, the Phoenician fleet becomes an indispensable component of the Persian military might. Their involvement in pivotal battles, utilizing their superior naval capabilities, underscores the strategic partnership between the Phoenicians and the Persians. Despite the challenges of warfare, the Phoenicians' contribution cements their status as invaluable allies of the Persian Empire, showcasing their enduring legacy as formidable seafarers and tacticians. In the embrace of the Persian Empire, from 539 to 332 BC, the Phoenician city-states experience an unprecedented era of stability and prosperity. Their strategic navigation of this period of foreign dominion allows them not only to survive, but to flourish. The Phoenicians continue to be celebrated as adept diplomats, ingenious traders, and cultural preservers, leaving an indelible mark on the fabric of ancient Mediterranean history. Even as part of the Persian Empire, Phoenician cities flourished as centers of trade and cultural exchange. Their ships traversed the Mediterranean, carrying cargoes of silver, tin, textiles, and the famed Tyrian purple dye, along with new goods from the East, enriching the cultural landscape of the ancient world. This period also saw continued artistic and architectural achievements, influenced by Persian and Greek styles, illustrating the cosmopolitan nature of Phoenician society. The arrival of Alexander the Great and his Macedonian army on the Phoenician doorstep in 332 BC marked a dramatic turning point. The siege of Tyre, a fiercely contested battle lasting several months, ended with Alexander's forces capturing the city, signaling the definitive end of Phoenician independence. The conquest of the Phoenician cities facilitated Alexander's subsequent campaigns into Egypt and the Persian heartlands, reshaping the political landscape of the ancient Near East. Alexander's conquests represent a change in political authority, ushered in the Hellenistic age, blending Greek and Eastern cultures in unprecedented ways. For the Phoenicians, this period was characterized by both disruption and integration into the emerging Hellenistic world, where their legacy would continue to evolve in new forms. In the wake of Alexander the Great's conquests, the ancient cities of Phoenicia found themselves enveloped by the Hellenistic world, marking a profound transformation in their political and cultural identity. The siege of Tyre in 332 BC, a pivotal moment in Alexander's campaign, demonstrated the military might of the Macedonian army and marked the beginning of Phoenician integration into the Hellenistic world. This period saw the flourishing of Hellenistic culture in Phoenician cities, where Greek language, arts and customs mingled with local traditions, creating a vibrant cultural. The Roman conquest of the Hellenistic kingdoms in the 2nd and 1st centuries BC further reshaped the destiny of the Phoenician cities. By 64 BC, with the creation of the Roman province of Syria, Phoenicia officially came under Roman rule. This new era brought significant changes, including infrastructural development and economic integration into the Roman Empire. Roman roads and aqueducts, alongside the continued use of Phoenician ports for grain transport to Rome, underscored the pragmatic approach of the Romans towards their new provinces, leveraging their economic and strategic value while ensuring their loyalty through grants of autonomy and citizenship rights. Under Roman rule, Phoenician cities continued to be important cultural and religious centers. The traditional Phoenician pantheon was gradually assimilated into the Roman religious framework, exemplified by the worship of Melkart, the Tyrian Hercules. Cultural festivals and games combining Phoenician and Roman elements became common, fostering a sense of shared identity among the inhabitants. Meanwhile, Phoenician craftsmanship, especially in purple dye production and glassware, remained highly prized, contributing to the economic resilience of Phoenician cities during this period. Despite the pressures of assimilation, the Phoenician legacy endured, particularly in maritime traditions and the spread of the alphabet, which continued to influence Western civilization. The blend of cultures under Roman rule also facilitated the spread of Christianity, with Phoenicia playing a role in the early Christian narratives. The era of Hellenistic and Roman Phoenicia encapsulates a period of significant transition from the decline of an independent Phoenician civilization to its integration into the fabric of larger empires. Yet the enduring aspects of Phoenician culture, religion, and economic ingenuity highlight the resilience and adaptability of this ancient people, whose legacy would continue to echo through the ages. The Phoenician era, from 64 BC to AD 300, left indelible marks of their civilization that continue to resonate across the Mediterranean and beyond. The legacy of the Phoenicians, particularly in the realm of written communication, was perhaps their most enduring contribution to future generations. The Phoenician alphabet, a revolutionary simplification of writing, became the foundation upon which Greek and Latin scripts were built, effectively shaping the course of Western literacy and education. During this period, Phoenician cities, now under Roman rule, continued their ancient traditions of maritime trade, albeit on a reduced scale. The Mediterranean world remained a landscape of interconnected cultures and economies, with Phoenician merchants and craftsmen contributing their age-old expertise in navigation, shipbuilding, and the production of luxury goods such as Tyrian purple dye and fine glassware. These activities underscored the ongoing influence of Phoenician trade practices, even as the political landscape shifted around them. The final chapters of Phoenician autonomy were written as the Roman Empire gradually transformed into the Byzantine Empire in the Eastern Mediterranean. This transition saw the integration of Phoenician territories into a broader imperial domain, marking the end of Phoenician independence. Yet the assimilation of Phoenician communities into the Byzantine realm did not erase their cultural and economic imprints. Instead, it layered new identities over the old, blending Phoenician heritage, with Greco-Roman and emerging Christian influences. By AD 300, the once great Phoenician city-states had fully merged into the fabric of the Byzantine Empire, their distinct identity fading into history. However, the legacy of the Phoenicians, evident in the alphabet, maritime innovations, and the spread of Eastern Mediterranean culture, continued to influence successive civilizations, showcasing their lasting impact on human history. As we peer into the realm of archaeological discoveries and modern research, the ancient cities of Byblos, Tyre and Sidon emerge as pivotal sites, offering insights into Phoenician daily life, trade, and culture. These cities, among the oldest continuously inhabited in the world, provide a window into the Phoenicians' advanced urban planning, religious practices, and commercial networks. Excavations in Byblos have revealed temples and royal tombs dating back thousands of years, adorned with artifacts that speak to the city's role as a major trading hub. In Tyre and Sidon, archaeological digs have unearthed evidence of the famed purple dye industry and the extensive trade networks that connected Phoenicia with the wider Mediterranean world. The Phoenicians were renowned as master seafarers, and recent advancements in underwater archaeology have begun to unlock the secrets of their maritime prowess. Sunken ships discovered off the coasts of present-day Lebanon and elsewhere offer tangible evidence of the extensive trade routes that defined Phoenician commerce. These underwater sites have yielded cargoes of wine, pottery, and precious metals, attesting to the wide-ranging trade connections the Phoenicians maintained across the ancient world. The legacy of the Phoenicians is not confined to the ruins of their cities, but extends into the galleries of modern museums around the globe. These institutions house extensive collections of Phoenician artifacts, from intricately designed jewelry and pottery to the famous sarcophagi and inscriptions that have provided linguists and historians with valuable insights into the Phoenician language and script. Through these artifacts, the public can engage with the tangible remnants of Phoenician civilization, gaining an appreciation for their contributions to art, culture, and technology. The journey through Phoenician history, from their origins to their decline and the ongoing archaeological efforts to uncover their past, reveals a civilization that was both influential and enigmatic. Their enduring legacy, encapsulated in the artifacts and sites left behind, continues to fascinate scholars and laypersons alike, ensuring that the story of the Phoenicians will be told for generations to come. As Carthage ascended to the zenith of its power, it became the heart of the Mediterranean's most expansive trade and political networks. This era marked a time of unparalleled prosperity, innovation, and cultural exchange. Carthage, inheriting the maritime legacy of the Phoenicians, navigated the delicate balance of diplomacy and power, forging key alliances, notably with emerging powers such as the Roman Republic. Through treaties that respected mutual interests, Carthage extended its influence without direct conflict, showcasing a sophisticated understanding of international relations. The economic prowess of Carthage was unmatched, with its traders venturing beyond the Pillars of Hercules, bringing back not only wealth, but also knowledge from their journeys. Markets in Carthage buzzed with activity, offering exotic goods that captivated the imagination of the ancient world. This economic dynamism fueled Carthage's growth, funding architectural marvels and public works that highlighted its prosperity. Yet it was not merely through trade and diplomacy that Carthage left its mark on history. The cultural landscape of the empire was a patchwork woven from diverse threads. Phoenician gods were worshipped alongside local deities, in ceremonies that reflected the amalgamation of traditions. This blending of cultures fostered a unique identity for Carthage, one that embraced both its Phoenician heritage and the new lands it called home. If the story of Carthage's rise, its intricate dance of diplomacy, and its rich cultural patchwork have captivated your imagination, we invite you to delve deeper into the mysteries of the ancient world with us. Like the Phoenician ships exploring unknown waters, let us continue our journey through history together. Like, share, and subscribe to uncover more tales of civilizations that have shaped our world. Your engagement fuels our quest for knowledge, connecting us across time to the legacies of the past. Thank you for joining us on this journey.